Okay. Today's shiur is what? What? Yeah. I didn't bring her name back in though. I wrote it down on the
Esther Leah Bas Zlata.
Okay, today's shiur, gentlemen, as we'll get started momentarily with all our sponsors, is number one, a refuah shlema for Esther Leah Bas Zlata, and number two, that's I'm assuming that Avrami will come in, Ilui Nishmat. 8:47. Whoever Avrami is observing his yard site for. Okay. What do you mean, no tika? Speak to him. Okay.
I already criticized him for saying Hallel at a pace I can keep up.
Learning sponsors, a year of learning by Sue and Arnie Garelick, in memory of Malka Perlman and Philip Mann, and Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Henry Rivka Pro Rosner bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, and in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust, Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Elubas Yaakov, Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan, friends of Avi Gitler, Avrameir ben Shimon and Martha Gitler, Charna bat Yeshaya, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory, friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine, in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher, friends of Nina Monester, Nachama Azna bat Yitzchak Aron, many friends of Stephen Vigder, Lezecher Nishmat Simcha Melech ben Meir Leib Halevi, friends of Marcy Kurtz, in memory of her great niece Leah Bracha. It's a month of learning, sponsored by Stanley Presser, in memory of his mother-in-law Golda Bas Libar, his mother Leah Bas Yehuda, and his wife Ruchel Mincha Bas Moshe. Carol and Josh Sanborn, in memory of her father Yehoshua Shir ben Moshe Yehuda HaKohen. David and Sharon Karpel, in memory of his father Tzev Moshe ben Shlomo Yaakov. B. Pizer, in memory of her mother Razel Bas Shammai. We have a month of learning in honor of Rosalind Greenberg Haskell's special birthday by the children of Grace and Julius Rosenzweig, Barbara Rottenberg, Ann Berezin, Judy Friedman, and Alan Rosenzweig. A week of learning by Judy Schiff, in memory of her mother Chaya Kava Bas Menachem Mendel. Today being the 2nd of February, a day of learning by Florence and Jay Levy, in memory of her father Menachem Mendel ben David Tzvi, by Michael and Judith Poretsky, in memory of his brother Chaim Tzvi ben Gershon, by Pearl and Milton Frank. Oh no, that's next day. So, Shammah's having Aliyah, Cranker Afia, Velta Yeshiva Shem Lataliah, Lachol B'nai Israel, Adikah Ben Shtiach. Okay, and again, a refuah shlema for Esther Leah Bas Zlata. Okay, and Avrami Ilui Nishmat Rivka Bas Avram. Refuah shlema for Tamar Yenta. Mar Yenta Bas Khan. Okay. Those will get added to the list when I get home. Okay. Okay, so today let us look at the Gemara. Okay, Elame Ata, is that where we're at?
Go back. What blood? Start at the bottom.
You want me to go all the way back there?
Well, that's where the Indians.
I know. All right. Okay. All right, so on the bottom of Kaf Amud Beis, okay? Okay. Next to the last line, we see as follows. Amarle Rav Ashi Le'amemar, Okriya de Mu'amad Minalan. Okay, so the question he's asking, okay, where he saw that he, first he did Kriya once while sitting, then he did Kriya again and he stood. And so he wants to.
First, before his son got.
Okay, well, the implication is that, yes, he did it 3 times, but he did once sitting, once seated, once standing. So that's why the Gemara picks up then with the question on the part of Rav Ashi, La'amema, Kriya de Me'umad Minalan. What's the basis for that? Dichtiv Vayakam Eov Vayikra et Me'ilo. And Eov tore his garment. Right? And it was Marty, right? Marty who asked, how come they suggested that pasuk, right? After all, Eov was not, shall we say, the best example that could have been chosen.
He was like the worst mourner.
Well, the implication is there were other things done in connection that was referred to in that pasuk and that follows. So that maybe could have been the reason that it was selected. Okay, Elame Ata, but rather from here. Okay, what happens? We see here that, okay, namely, this is regarding now the issue of chalitza. All right, Va'amad va'amar lo chafatzti lekachta. Okay, that it says there regarding the chalitza that he says this, then he does it standing. Okay, right? Achanami here too. Okay, Vahatanya. But here too, we also have the following. All right, it's Tad Bain Yoshev, Bain Omed, Bain Moteh. Whether he's sitting, whether he's standing, or whether even he's leaning or reclining. Amarle Hatam lo ktiv v'yamod vayomer. There it's not written he stood and said. Hacha kativ vayakam vayikra. There we have the juxtaposition, if you will, between standing and tearing. Right? Amar Rami Barcham. He says as follows. Minayan lekriya shehi me'umad. Okay, apparently Rami was not in Shiur that day. Okay, and he asks the same shaila. What happened? Shene'amar vayakam iyo vayikra. Okay, again, somebody cited the same pasuk. Dilma milta yitirtahu. Da'avad. Okay, maybe this was I'm going to translate it, you're right, but I'm going to say a out of the ordinary or an extraneous or an extra, okay, activity that he did by standing and tearing. In other words, implying maybe it would have been sufficient for him to tear it while seated, okay? De'ilo temahachi, if you don't say that, what about a further part in that, okay, yeah, further part of the pasuk, vayigaz et rosho, that he shaved his head. Or tore his hair. All right. Hachanami here too. Okay. Perhaps here Elame Hacha Vayakam Hamelech Vayikra et Begadav. But rather, maybe we should use the example of tearing while standing from the episode in 2 Samuel chapter 13 at the death of David's son, where David himself stood and tore his garments. Right? Vidilma milta yatirta aved. Again, perhaps we say maybe this was a out of the ordinary and extra act, right? De'ilo temahachi. because if you don't say so, okay, Vayishkav Artsa Hachanami, because then there the pasuk said, and he lay on the ground, and therefore would that imply that every mourner has to do likewise? Okay, Vahatanya, but aren't we taught elsewhere in a Braita? Yeshev al gabe mita, al gabe kisei, al gabe udaini, that if he sat on a bed, he sat on a chair, or he sat on a mortar, okay, that was a mortar and pestle. They had large ones that they could turn over, okay, and sit down on. All right, if you're using Koren, you should have a picture of that exactly, right? Yeah, right there in the corner, right? Okay, Odani Gedola Al Gav Karka, okay, and on the right, turning it over to the ground, Mikulan Lo Yatsa Yedei Chovato. There he says it doesn't fulfill his obligation. Va'amar Rabbi Yochanan, Shalo Kiyem Kfiyat Hamita. Why here, he says? Perhaps it was a situation that he didn't fulfill the requirement of turning over the bed. Amale, so he said to him, Ke'ein Artza. What we mean is that it's, let's say, almost as if like sitting on the ground, close to sitting on the ground. All right? That's the point. Tanu Rabbanan says the Braita, new piece. Ve'elu dvarim she'avel asur bahem. And these are the things, says this Braita, that mourner is forbidden. Asur b'melacha, prohibited in work. Uberechitza, and in bathing. Ubesicha, and anointing. Ubetashmi shamita, and in relations. Ubenilat hasandal, and in wearing footwear primarily from leather. Va'asur likrot b'Torah u'b'nevi'im u'b'tekutuvim, and it's forbidden to read or recite from Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. Lishanot b'Mishnah, b'Midrash, u'b'Hilchot. Okay, and some texts have u'b'Hashas, u'b'Agadot, and some texts do not have the phrase u'b'Shas. Okay, and he's forbidden to learn what? Mishnah, Midrash, Halacha, okay, from or Agadata, right? V'im hayu rabim tzrichin lo, and I'm going to translate it, but if the community needs him, eino nimna, then he is not prevented from going ahead and teaching material from any of those sources. Okay?
Why by Torah and Nevi'im it says likros?
Yeah, to read. Okay, so the okay,
That's what it means.
okay, I could give you two answers. Okay, answer number one would mean likros would imply that he can't read from these within a ritual context. In other words, he can't be called up for a haftorah, can't be called up to read Torah, things like that. Remember, in their day, a person read their own aliyah. Okay, so that would be one answer. Okay, the second answer would be that, remember, the Yavel is only supposed to be reading or learning those sections, certain limited sections of texts. Okay, so that would be another second answer.
The term likros is always used when it's Tanakh versus Shaina, which is
That's
always
true.
Dorish about that.
Okay, that's another aspect. All right. So the Gemara tells us, "Umaaseh umeit beno shel Rabbi Yossi b'tzipori," and there was a situation, an incident, where the son of Rabbi Yossi in Tzipori died. V'nichnas lebeit hamidrash v'darash kol hayom kulo, and he went still into the base midrash and expounded the entire day. Okay, so the implication was he was needed in Tzipori to do so, Rabbi Yossi. Okay, again, Koren should have a note on the personality of who Rabbi Yossi was. And again, I remind everybody, if you use ArtScroll, remember ArtScroll came out with an excellent volume. That's an introduction to the Gemara. I believe we have it in the Shul library. I also have a copy as well. You have it? Oh, okay.
I'll lend you one in by Boca.
All right, I have it too. All right. Now, going on, Rabba Bar Chana, Itra'a Bein Milta. Okay, notice the difference in language here. That Rabba Bar Chana, something happened to him. In other words, he also had a death in the family. Savar Delola Mefek Lepirka. And he was of the opinion not to go to the shiur, not to go to the lesson. Okay? Amarle Rabbi Chanina, and Rabbi Chanina came and said to him, Im hayu rabim tzrichin lo eino nimna. But our text, our Braita said that if the community needs him, it should not prevent him from going. Savar la okme emora aleh. He therefore was of the opinion to establish a amora, a maturgaman, a somebody else who would be the loudspeaker, so to speak. Okay, well, more than just the interpreter. Okay, all right, along with him. Amar le Rav, says Rav Tanya. It was taught ubilvad shelo ya'amid turgaman, but that's on the condition that he doesn't set up a loudspeaker explainer turgaman. Okay, ve'ela hechi ave, and therefore, how is he to behave? How is he to carry it out? Kihad Tanya, like that was taught the following. Ma'aseh umet beno shel Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli. An incident occurred where the death of the son of Rabbi Yehuda bar Eli. V'nichnas labeit hamidrash, and he went into the base midrash. V'nichnas Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, okay, and Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, his colleague, went in along with him. V'yashav b'tzido, and he sat alongside of him. V'lachash hu, the Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia. And so what happened? Rabbi Yehuda ben Eli whispered his shiur to Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, for Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, the Turgaman, and then he spoke it to the Amora, right, the Maturgaman, Ishmael Rabim, and then he announced it to the community.
It was like a shinoi.
So it's a shinoi.
Okay, one example could be a shinui. Okay, that would be one case. The other would be that he was not saying it, in a sense, publicly. He was saying it to a private individual. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan says a bright. Okay, Avel Shlosha Yamim Harishonim, for the mourner for the first 3 days, Asur lahaniach tefillin, is prohibited from putting on tefillin. Okay, now we might ask the question: if that's for the first 3, what about the other 7? Okay, well, let's see. Let's ask the question first, and then we go on. Mishlishi ve'elech, okay, ushlishi bichlal, from the third, after the 3rd day, and including the 3rd day, mutar lahaniach tefillin. Okay, he's permitted to put on. Okay, so does that mean that the Braita accepts? Okay, miktsas kulo. All right, is that the implication? Let's go on. V'imbo panim chadashot, says this Braita, and if there are new faces, and by the way, we normally think of panim chadashot in terms of a
different week.
A different kind of week, right? The days for a chasana here, but it's exactly that's the point. It's the same concept. Yes, Bob.
But when they use the word mutter, they making it optional for them to put on tefillin?
Good question. Let's see what the Gemara continues and tells us whether it's what it implies, right? But excellent question, Bob. Ve'im ba'u panim chadashot, and if there were new faces, in other words, new people coming to be Menachem Avel,
You may not know the
Okay.
day count.
all right? Eino choletz divrei Rabbi Eliezer. He does not remove tefillin in that situation. Okay? Rabbi Yeshua Omer, says Rabbi Yeshua, Avel shnei yamim harishonim asur lahaniach tefillin. The 2 days, all right? it is forbidden to put on tefillin. Misheni ushneni bichlal, from the second day, and including the second day, mutar lahaniach tefillin. It is permitted to put on tefillin. So again, Bob, your question is a valid one. Okay, all right. Ve'im ba'u panim chadashot, and if new individuals come to be menachem avel, choletz, he does remove. Okay, Amar Rav Matana, says Rav Matana, Mai Tama the Rabbi Eliezer. What was Rabbi Eliezer's view? Right. Okay. All right. So in other words, what was his view? That he said, right, that 2 complete days you don't, and that the third day, okay, let's see. My Tama, what was his reasoning? Dichti, why? It's written, Vayitmu Yemei Bechi Evil Moshe. And they completed the days, Yemei plural, of crying, okay, regarding the mourning of Moshe. Amar Rav Ina, my Tama de Rabbi Yoshua. What was Rabbi Yoshua's reasoning? Dichtiv, right? Va'achrita ki yom mar. Okay, and afterwards it was like a bitter day, which implies a single day. Okay, now Rabbi Yoshua Nami, but Rabbi Yoshua also Haktiv v'yitmu yemei gomer. Okay, you've got that pasuk that says days plural. So how is he going to handle it? Right? Amarlach, he would say to you, Shani Moshe. With Moshe, it was different. The Takif Avle, because his mourning was more significant. It was stronger. It was greater. Rabbi Eliezer Nami. And what about Rabbi Eliezer here also? Haktiv va'achrita ki yomar. He also has to deal with the pasuk that refers to it being only one day, right? Ikar marira chad yomahu. And that would be his answer, that the most significant aspect of, or the bitterest, right, intense, well, term we want to use, okay, is one day, right? Now, Amar Ula, says Ula, halacha Rabbi Eliezer b'chalitza, b'halacha Rabbi Yoshua b'hanacha. That according to Ula, the law is like Rabbi Eliezer regarding removing the tefillin, but the law is like Rabbi Yoshua in regards to putting on the tefillin. Okay, all right. So in other words, piece 1 said that if there's panim chadashot, you take them off. So that's what Ula says. Okay, and when regards to putting it on, Rabbi Yoshua starting the second day. Ibayalahu. So they asked now the sages the following shaila. B'sheni le'ula, on the second day, okay? Choletz or eno choletz, does he take it off or doesn't he take it off? Tashma, says the Gemara, Amar ula choletz umaniach afilu mea pa'amim, that you remove and put on, even if it means 100 times.
Every time somebody new comes.
Right? Right, off and on, off and on. Okay? Tanya Nami Hachi, and the Braita teaches this as well. Yehuda ben Tema Omer, he says, Choletz umaniach afilu me'am pa'amim. Remove and put on even 100 times. Rabba Amar, says Rabba, says as follows. That's why I said, let's look to see what the Gemara says. Kevan sheheniach shuv eino choletz. Once he puts it on, says Rabba, I'm sorry, he does not remove. But wait a second, says the Gemara. Vaha Rava Huda Amar. But isn't it Rava himself who says, Halacha Tana Didan, that the law is like our Tana. Da Amar Shlosha, who said it's regarding the third day. Right? Mitzvah Shani. But where it's in regards to a mitzvah, that is a different situation.
So you have to put your tefillin on.
Right? So you do put it on. Okay. top of the new Amud. Tana Rabbanan, says the Rabban. Right? Avel, Shlosha Yamim Harishonim, Asur b'melacha. We said that the first 3 days the mourner is prohibited from work. Va'afilu ani hamitparnes min tzedakah. And even a poor person who derives financial benefit from charity. Mikan va'elech, from that point on, oseh b'tzina b'toch beito. Then he can do some kind of whatever
discreetly,
privately, right in his v'ha'isha toveh b'pelech b'toch beita. And a woman who might be the mourner, okay, may spin her wool in her home, even using a spindle. Okay? That's the point. Okay. Tanu Rabbanan. Again, Avel, Shlosha Yamim Harishonim, the first 3 days, Eino Halech LeBeit HaEvel, is not to go to another house of mourning to comfort a different mourner. Okay? Mikan ve'elech, after those first 3 days, Olech ve'eino yoshev b'makom hamenachamin, ele b'makom hamitnachamin. But he goes during those other days, but does not sit with the comforters, but rather sits with the other mourners. Again, Tanu Rabbanan, another brighter. Avel Shlosha Yamim Harishonim, the first 3 days, Asur b'she'ilat shalom, is prohibited from introducing, greeting, initiating the greeting. Mishlosha va'ad shiva, from the 3rd through the 7th, Meshiv ve'eno shoel. He may respond. Yes, Mel.
It's much more, to go after the 3rd day, Menachem Avos, it's much more respected than to go the first 3 days.
Right.
unless you're very close to the person.
Right. Right. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. There are still some people that follow the practice that you wait till after the 3 days.
Unless you really know the person well, you give
Okay.
them 2 days plus,
Right.
which is the Lisa's young.
Okay.
I agree. The first 3 days, they're telling me no. What if Shabbos is mixed in the first 3 days? So therefore, there's no avail, technically on Shabbos. Can I say?
No public. What? No public availing, right?
Right, so the Shabbos-
Can you be Menachem? You're asking, can you be Menachem?
I'm not.
No. Can you say
He
good
comes
job?
to shul or he sits down, whatever it is, he's not, whatever he's doing. I walk in, I say good Shabbos to him,
You're not allowed supposed to say good Shabbos.
and I say good Shabbos to him. Can I do that?
Yes.
I'm saying you can, because there's no availance on Shabbos. All of a sudden now, it's me or the head.
Right? So I would say in that case, you're not really being Menachem Avel.
Now I'm saying the Shabbos.
You're saying good Shabbos to him.
Right, and then when he said to me, let me finish my point.
In a different seat.
Okay? The question is the person in a different seat? In other words, are they carrying out any kind of availus? Okay, if you see that they're, I'm just suggesting, if you're seeing that they're carrying out some act of availus, then I would say, no, you don't say good Shabbos to them. Okay, because even though they don't do it b'farhesia, they're still acting in a private manner as an oven. That's the point.
But this is the whole rest of the Gemara now. It's a battle over when you can start saying
Yes,
hello.
that's when it's going to be the question. Okay,
The whole rest of the daf.
okay.
If you don't know, you just say hello.
Well, okay, ideally, if somebody is an avel, when they come into shul, they should be changing their normal seat. Okay, so
There's
if
a
you-
machlokes about Shabbos.
I know. Okay, but seeing that, first of all, as part of the community, ideally you would have heard, okay? And that's even before we have sending it out on email, Okay, all right. So the,
Everybody hanging out at Schwartz's house.
okay, in other words,
Not everybody knows this, like you're not supposed to say hello.
That's
okay,
true.
that's why. So that's what the Gemara is now going to go into more detail. Okay, all right. So the point is, all right, does that clarify, Sid, a little better?
No, I have to look.
Okay, Mishlosha v'ad shiva meishiv ve'eno sho'el. He can respond but cannot initiate. Mikan va'elech sho'el umoshiv kedarko. From then afterwards, he may,
That's during
Initiate.
Shlosh.
all right, that he may initiate and respond in a normal manner. Okay, now the Gemara raises this now as a question. Shlosha yamim harishonim asur b'she'ilat shalom. That's the question. Vahatanya ma'aseh umetu banav shel Rabbi Akiva. A situation occurred where the sons of Rabbi Akiva, plural, right? What they died. Nichnesu kol Yisrael v'hispidum hesped gadol. Okay, and the community. All right, again, let's put it that way. Came in and they conducted a hesped, a great eulogy. B'shas patiratan. Okay, at the time of their passing.
After he left the
Okay, so what happens? Okay, let's assume you remember that elsewhere we've learned that at times they did this in the courtyard in front of the house. Okay, so it could be that, right? So what did he do? He stood. Amad Rabbi Akiva al Safsal Gadol. He got up on a large bench, Va'amar, and said, Achinu Beit Yisrael Shim'u. My brethren Israel, listen. Afilu Shnei Banim Chatanim. Okay, even if the two sons were grooms. Okay, Menucham hu b'shvil kavod she'asita. Okay, implying that that one is comforted given the honor that has been extended. Right now, ve'im b'shvil Akiva batem, and if you came for Akiva, harei kama Akiva b'shu. Right, look at there are many other Akivas, many other people, okay, that lose loved ones. All right, elakach amartem, but thus you said, Torat elakav bilbibo. But the Torah is in his heart. In other words, he is so well thought of. V'kol shekein shesachar scharchem kaful, and therefore your reward, your benefit is double. L'chu levatechem l'shalom. Go back to your homes in peace. Okay. Now,
so he greeted them.
So the question is this to be considered labriot? Is this to be considered a greeting?
He used the word shalom.
Okay, well, that's the issue. That's why it's a question. That's why the Gemara brings it to examine it. Okay, so the Gemara answers kavod rabim shani. Okay, that here they're showing this respect for the community. It's a different situation. Now, however, the Gemara picks up and continues. Mishlosha va'ad shiva, okay, from the third to the seventh day. Meshiv ve'eno sho'el, okay, he can respond but doesn't initiate. Mikan ve'elech sho'el u'meshiv kedarko. From here on, he can initiate and respond in a normal manner. Or minhei, okay, but we challenge this, okay, with the following. Hamotze et chavero avel abriut. Okay, one who finds his colleague or friend of a mourner, b'toch shloshim yom, within 30 days, medaber imo tanchumim, may share with him comforts, ve'eno sho'el b'shlomo, but does not initiate and welcome or greet him. Okay. La'achar shloshim yom. But after the 30 days, sho'el b'shlomo, okay, one then does initiate the greeting, ve'eino medaber imo tanchumim, but does not share with them words of comfort. Okay, so the implication of this text is that after the 30 days, you greet them, but you do not share consolation.
But this is the machlekes here is now, but during 30 days, you don't. In the
Right.
previous price, you said.
You do. That's the point. Meta ishto v'nasa isha acheret. This is a rather interesting piece. Okay. So in other words, does this answer the question of the machloket? We'll see. In an incident where the man's wife died and he marries another woman,
In Shlosh.
okay, and it would apparently be shloshim, okay. Eino rashai v'kanes leveito ledaber imo tanchumim. One is not permitted to enter his home and extend condolences. Matzo bashuk, okay, if you find him in the marketplace, Omerlo b'safa rafa ubechoved rosh. One then can say it to him, okay, in I'll call it polite language, okay, and out of respect, right? Now, so the implication there seems to be, all right, that maybe we're dealing with two different situations or not. Amar Rav Idi Bar Avin, he says, who sho'eh b'shalom acherim. Okay, it's one thing to greet the welfare of others. In other words, when we gave the example of Rabbi Akiva, maybe in that case he was extending peace to them. She'acherim shruyim b'shalom, that these others be situated in peace. Acherim ein sho'elim b'shlomo, but others do not initiate or greet him. Shahu eino sharui b'shalom. Why? Because he is not in a situation, in a condition of peace. Vaha midikatani meshiv. Okay, and the fact that it teaches that he may respond, miklau the sha'ilin, but that seems to imply that they do ask, they do greet him, right? The lo yade, says the Gemara, that they don't recognize, they're not aware as to the as either of his being of Avel, or they're not aware as to which day in the Avelus he could be in, right? Ihachi, if that's the case, hatam nami, here too that should be the case. Hatam, there within the first 3 days, modeh laho v'lo mahader laho. He acknowledges, he informs them, right? And they don't, right, return. Hacha here, lo tzarich la'odu einhu. Okay, and here after that, he doesn't have to inform them. Or minhu, okay? And we have a contradiction though. Hamotze et chavero avel b'toch yud bet chodesh. One who finds a friend or colleague who is a mourner within a year. Medaber imo tanchumim. Okay, may extend condolences. Ve'eino sho'el b'shlomo, and does not initiate greetings. La'achar yud bet chodesh, but after 12 months, sho'el b'shlomo, one can initiate greetings. Ve'eino medaber imo tanchumim, but does not say, extend words of comfort. Aval medaber imo min hatzad, but one can take them and extend it indirectly. Okay. Amar Rabbi Meir, says Rabbi Meir. Hamotze et chavero, one who finds a colleague. Aval la'achar yud bet chodesh, but after 12 months, umedaber imo tanchumim, and extends condolences. Lamahu domeh, what is he compared to? La'adam shenishbara raglo v'chayta, to a person who broke his leg and healed, Matzo Rofe, and a doctor finds him, Va'amarlo, and says to him, Kalcha etzli shani shavra. Bring your leg over here, and I'll break it for you. Why? Ve'erpa'ena kadei sheteda shesamamin shali yafin. And then I'll repair it, I'll cure it, so that you'll see what a great doctor I am. Okay? That's
So in
why.
other words, that you're reopening an old wound.
Right, exactly. Lo kasha, says the Gemara. There's not really a problem here. Ha, in one case, ba'avi ve'imo. Okay? Vaha, here in another case, after the 7 days, b'shar krovim, we're talking about other relatives. Hatam nami, yedaber imo tanchumim minatzad. But there too, let him go ahead and extend comfort indirectly. And yes, en hachinami, indeed that's the case. Umayi no medaber imo tanchumim. Okay, and what do we mean when we say that he doesn't direct words of comfort? Kedarko, in the normal manner. Aval medaber imo min hatzad, but rather he shares with it indirectly. Tanu Rabbanan, one more piece, says the Gemara. Avel, Shlosha Yamim Harishonim, the first 3 days. Ba mimakom karov. Okay, and here, okay, even when it's the first 3 days, Moneh imahem, if he now travels from some neighboring community.
This is a mourner.
Okay, the mourner travels.
One of the mourners.
Okay, and now he joins other mourners. Okay, so he comes from, I don't know, Brooklyn, and he goes to Manhattan. Okay, I'm just using that as a rough example. Okay, all right, what happens? Umone imahem, and he can count the days with them for the Shiva. Okay, Bami makom rachok, but if he comes from Brooklyn and he's traveling to Boca, okay, right? Moneh la'atzmo, he counts for himself. Mikan ve'elech, okay, after that,
After 3 days, if he shows up.
yeah, afilu bami makom karo, even if he comes after the first 3 days, moneh la'atzmo,
From close by.
right, from close by. Rabbi Shimon Omer, he says, afilu baba yom hashvi'i mimakom karov moneh imahem. Even if he comes, right, 7th day, okay, he can count with it. Amar Mar, says Mar, Shlosha Yamim Harishonim, Bami Makom Karov, Moneh Imahem. If he says the master comes 3 days, he, right, from a close, he counts with them. And that's where we'll stop. We'll pick up tomorrow on the bottom, all right, of what Rabbi Chia says and how that goes on to the next. The implication, I thought, what?
In the main case, there are several.
With
but the main case
small children.
is he has small children and he needs a woman to care of. I said
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's,
Yeah. There are
that's-
other cases too, but that's the main. case.
that would be the main, yeah, that
Or
would
if
be
he's a
the,
Kohen, Gadol, he also has to get married.
I suppose, that's,
You don't take a job, correct? But you do say, I'm sorry about the law. Because we learned that already, that the mourners can